Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss this very simple question based on arrays. Now this course is going to be on how to build logic and how to understand data structures and algorithms. So in the first few videos we'll learn about very basic problems, and that will basically tell you how can you develop your own logic. Once you are comfortable with developing logic and writing simple code, we can move on to more approaches that you will be using or more intuitions that you will be using in further problem solving. Again, by no means I'm trying to teach you the method of coding over here. We'll only be discussing about the algorithms. So let's give a look to the new question over here. Given an array of size n, count the number of elements which have at least one element greater than itself. So suppose I have an array -3, -2, 6, 8, 4, 8. Here you have to count such elements which have at least one element that is greater to itself. Let's look at -3. Yes, -3 does have numbers that are greater to itself. -2 also have many numbers that are greater to it. For 6 also we have 8. But for 8 here we do not have any greater element. Let's look at 4 now. 4 again has multiple numbers which are greater to it. And then again 8 does not have any number greater to it. Now let's move on to another example. 2, 5, 1, 4, 8, 0, 8, 1, 3, 8. Now look at this. Again, 2 also have multiple elements which are greater to it. Same for 5. For 1 also we have n number of elements. For 4 also. But for 8 there are no greater elements. For 0 we do have a few. For 8 again we don't have any greater element. And for 1 here we have greater elements, for 3 as well, but no elements for 8. So clearly, if you see in the first example, what is the observation that you can make? There are in total 4 elements which have at least one element greater than itself. So answer would be 4. Look at the second array. In this again, what do you see? There are 7 elements that have elements that are greater to itself. Let's try to make a quick observation. Let's name this array A and this array B. Look at the example of array A. The length of this array is equal to 6. And the answer, you can say, the answer that you're getting is 4. Now try to make a few observations. Clearly you see that the greatest element will not have any element that is greater to itself. But all the other elements will have an element greater to itself that will at least be the maximum element in the array. So by that logic, by that observation, I can figure out one algorithm. What I can do is, first of all, find the maximum element. Yep. Now I am assured that that element will not have any more elements that are greater to that particular element. Secondly, it has not been said that the elements in the array are unique by any case. So I can also say I'll have to find the count of my maximum element. Now once I do that, I can safely say I have found out an answer. So what will my answer be? My answer will be the length of the array minus the count of the maximum element. In the B array, see what is the length of the array. The length of the array is 10. What about the maximum element? The maximum element here is 8. The count of that maximum element is equal to 3. And what is my answer? 10 minus 3, that is equal to 7. So 7 elements have a number that is greater to it. Okay. So that was the logic behind this question. Now let's write a pseudocode and see how this works. Now let's quickly see the pseudocode for the same. The first thing was that I had to find the max. Now for finding the max, you have a very simple approach. First of all, you have to declare a max variable. Now please make sure you cannot initialize this variable with a 0 value, because your array can have negative numbers as well. Okay, so instead of initializing max to 0, let us initialize this by infinity, or the first element of the array. Once we are done with that, now let's iterate through the array with a for loop. This n here is the length of the array, and now we have to find that if the array element is greater than the max element, then for sure I should make my max equal to the array element. Okay, now for ease, let me just close this into braces so that it is easier to understand. Moving on, once we have found out the maximum element, we must now find out what is the count of that element. Count number of occurrences, I can say. Now for this, simply you can again iterate through the entire array and then check that if my array element is equal to max, then what should I do? I should increment the count. Now please make sure you have initialized a count variable with 0 so that you can increment it. Now once you're done with this, you can simply return your answer. That will be return n minus count. And yeah, you're done. Now let us try to analyze the complexity of this particular algorithm. First, let's talk about the space complexity. Now here we are not using any extra space, and that is why the space complexity is O of 1. Now let's have a look at the time complexity. In the first part, we are trying to find out the maximum element, in which we have to traverse the entire array only once. That is why the time complexity is O of n. In the second part, we have to count the number of occurrences, again iterating through the array only once, and that is why the time complexity is also O of n. So the overall time complexity of this particular algorithms becomes O of n. So that is all for the pseudocode of this particular algorithm. Now let us move on to the program. Now I am using IntelliJ for coding in Java, and by all means you can use any IDE that is suitable to you and use any programming language. First, let's try to find the max. Okay. Now this is very simple. Again, I'll just have to take a variable that is max, and I'll have to initialize this with the maximum possible value. And that can be done by this particular method. It is a predefined function in Java. Then I'll have to get the count, so I'll create a variable count. Moving on, I need to iterate through the array. And I will go till n. And here I am getting this from the user only, you can say. And again, I'm just writing the solution, and this is the main method that will be calling the solution. Moving on, I just have to do this, that I have to find out the maximum element. So I'll just have to make a if statement. If my max is less than my a of I, then I should say then max should be changed to a of I. Now once I have found out the max, I have to count the occurrence of max. For this, again, I just have to iterate to the array through the array. So you need to declare in here. Okay. Now I can simply count it. If my a of I is equal max, I can say increment the count by 1. Now once this happens, I can safely return n minus count. Now let's try to, I can also comment this as result. Now let's try to run this and see what happens. The input here is -3, -2, 6, 8, 4, 8, 5. And my result is 5. As you can see, The length of the array is 7 and the number of occurrences of 8 are 2, and 7 minus 2 will be equal to 5. So 5 elements have something that is related to the element itself. So that was all for this problem. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, comment down below. You can tell me what you liked about it or any things I need to improve on. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more such content. Thank you.